Lucifer, Season 1, Episode 10. What did you think overall? Personally, this one has a few of my favorite scenes of the whole series, and I'm going to talk about them in order. But what do you think overall first?
For me overall, this is for several reasons one of my favorite episodes. And I honestly I didn't even pay any attention to it until this episode, but that parallel between Trixie and Chloe, for one. But I just overall like the whole episode, the constant reference back to the parents and not wanting to turn out like their parents, and I like how it circles back to where um, not only the chef's son, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, and then Chloe, they kind of reconcile with their parents by the end of the episode. Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, like on one of the episodes from season one, this is the episode I like to watch, and Junior, that's his name. You kind of see some similarities between what Junior's going through, and of course to Lucifer. but also, I gotta point out one of the big themes of this episode is how to deal with your own parents, and you see it's like some other people will see your parents differently, but it's more of how do you deal with your own kind of parents.
For sure. If we want to talk about the whole family dynamics through the episode first, I think the perfect place to start is that whole family dinner scene between Chloe and her mom, and just the whole conversation going around the table and like everything that everyone was saying. That whole scene there. Um, and then by the end, everyone just leaves, and then it's Chloe and Lucifer left having dinner together. That scene feels very like the scene from Shrek 2, where it's like, donkey!
I is this? I don't know if it's hearing me or not. Okay, now it's picking it up. It didn't want to let me talk at first. Okay, so yes, going with the whole family dynamic thing. Lucifer's daddy issues are very much prominent throughout the whole series. Especially in this episode though, you hear him talk about it a lot. Because there are obviously a lot of references to God. But I really like that we get to see more of Chloe's issues with her mom, and that we actually we meet Penelope. But I just love it because Chloe not only opens up to Lucifer, but then you really get to kind of see that while Chloe is a really really good mom, she didn't necessarily have that experience growing up, and it kind of parallels with Lucifer later on.
Oh man, the journey we go on this episode with Chloe and the relationship to her mom, and just like the whole way that it starts, like how her mom. Okay, so first of all, like her mom and Lucifer finally meet, and I love that scene. That's a great scene. But like the way that her mom introduces herself as her sister, kind of not wanting to like show her age, and then like also it's kind of the way she would act too. Like she wasn't motherly. She almost acted like she was, I guess, Chloe's sister when Chloe was growing up. Like she wasn't the mother she needed. She was more like trying to be her friend. And then that kind of it's why Chloe had to become an adult quicker than, you know, she wanted to.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe that Chloe had to grow up faster than she should have. Like she had to be an adult, um, much sooner than she wanted to be, because her mom was forcing her into these auditions and stuff. And well, I got the vibe that Chloe probably it started acting around 19. It never occurred to me until this rewatch that her mom had probably forced her from a very young age, like Trixie's age, to, come on set and do auditions and stuff like that. And that's probably not the life, or what we see later on, of course, that that's not the life that Chloe really wanted. And it frustrated me as a parent to see Penelope doing that to Trixie and kind of trying to force her into that lifestyle without talking about it with her mom first. Renee, go ahead.
And with Mama Deca, as Lucifer would call it, also I gotta put down on the notes I had is with family dinner. It wasn't until season 5 where Lucifer has a family dinner with his dad, and the fact that in this episode Chloe family dinner, we never have any. It really also kind of reminds me of the fact that for Lucifer's case, like his dad is never around, and you want us to have family dinner. Like we never have any. Like really?
Go ahead, Maria. Okay, I will say something then. Just going off of Chloe's mom and that whole thing. So one of my favorite Trixie scenes is caused because of Penelope, and I love the whole scene um where Penelope is dressing up Trixie, and then Chloe and Penelope end up fighting over how to parent Trixie, whereas Penelope is the grandma and Chloe is Trixie's mom, and Trixie can't handle the fighting over her, and so she moves fast and gets an Uber and runs to Lucifer or tries to find Lucifer, and I just love that whole scene. Trixie, I love you. I love her so much. And then when she actually meets Maze there and they make a friend with each other, and Maze pours her an alcoholic drink, which is still very funny. I love that scene so much.
Okay, sorry. Good evening. Forgot to take the mic off. Yeah, you see the parallels. I get it with Chloe. Okay, Penelope and Chloe and Trixie. Lucifer with his dad. Junior with Javier. Is there another family relationship in there that's paralleled? I don't know.
I'm gonna go ahead. I kind of saw the parallel between Junior and his dad to be kind of that with Lucifer and God, because like Junior kind of thought that he wasn't worth his, owning the restaurant. He didn't think his father cared about him or had his approval, and then that kind of really mirrors what Lucifer feels with his dad, that he's in. I mean, for good reason, because obviously God outcasted him and made him feel unworthy and unwanted. And I just really love all the kind of like parent child parallels in this episode. Like, obviously with Chloe and her mom, and then Trixie and Chloe, and then Lucifer and his dad, and Junior and um, Javier. Like, I don't know. I just really liked all the parental like connections we had in this. Kim, and then Renee, go ahead.
I'm just going to jump off of what you said. I mean, Junior does say that his dad was like a god in the kitchen. So that is definitely a parallel there between Lucifer and God, and Junior and his dad. And then also, Lucifer makes a comment that Junior didn't escape his dad, he turned into him. And so that definitely parallels that there. Go ahead, Renee.
So, like, to add to the with the parent issues, like both Chloe and Lucifer had like a parent like pushing them to be something they didn't want to, but it kind of leads them to what they are like right now, and also to later on in the series, which leads to what God said in the bonus episode, that a parent just wants what's best for their child, just wants happiness for their child, and Penelope did say that at the end of the episode. Also, one thing I gotta point out for Trixie, like when she runs off, you would think, because Dan has been very close, like more close with Chloe and Trixie, like at this point, like he does make it better, but Trixie's first instinct is just go to Lucifer, which is really quite a touching thing.
Okay, I found one more parallel between Javier and everybody who worked at the restaurant, because he was pops to everyone, sort of like God is to all humans. So that could be another parallel on this whole daddy mommy parent issue thing. And that's why they call them. And as Renee just said, they're very demanding, very they wanted, but Javier wanted to make these kids, his people, better chefs, and he was really strict, but they always said he was fair, and they still loved him even though he worked them to the bone.
I love it. You are absolutely correct. And then I just wanted to jump back to what Renee said about Lucifer and Trixie. So in the scene where Lucifer is cooking and then Trixie finally comes home and sees him, she's like, Lucifer! And then tries to run and hug him, and he's like, get back! I love that scene. And then just to talk more about Lucifer, because we love him. This episode has my favorite Lucifer outfit of all time. Literally cannot get enough of him in that t-shirt that he ends up getting from the restaurant because the girl throws up blood on him. I love that t-shirt so much. I wish we could see him in t-shirts more often because I'm literally obsessed with that look. It is my favorite. Go ahead, Renee, and then Maria.
I quite like that, like the moment where like it's okay, just let it out. I have that effect on women, and she just like bursts up like blood right onto the shirt, and like, oh, well, I never had that effect. I find that really quite funny.
Yeah, that's the total thing. Come on, let it all out. That thing, but he feels in character. It just looks wrong for him to be wearing that t-shirt, and he looks so uncomfortable in the sense that he's got his hands in front of him. We've got to go get a change or something. But he even acts uncomfortable in that t-shirt, even though, well, he doesn't really look Luciferish in that t-shirt, to be honest, because we're so used to seeing him in a suit by now, not so much the bad boy with the leather jacket and thing that we saw in episodes 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, it is a look that just throws even him off.
I was gonna add too that yeah, I don't like I don't. It's not that I don't like Lucifer in the t-shirt. It doesn't look like Lucifer. Like to me, that's an entirely different person. However, I will say later on I think when he starts dressing like Dan, when he's like wearing the jacket and the sunglasses, I love that look on him, and I'm not sure why, but it's just a good look. I don't know if that's when he's looking like Dan or if he was dressing up for some other reason, but he had like a jacket and sunglasses, and he had his hair like brushed differently. But I adore that look on him. Another thing I really loved in this episode, I like um, Trixie and Maze. Just adore it. And like not only because Maze offers Trixie a drink and she's actually going to drink it. I'm sure Trixie knows well enough that that had to be alcohol. I mean, Lux is a club and she knows that. But I guess Maze did lie to her about what it was. So it's I don't know, I love that scene so much. I love that Maze, who is generally a very cold and uncaring person, just sees this child and she's like, you know what? You're cool. I like you. Kim, go ahead.
Just to finish the Lucifer conversation, I love it though because it is so awkward and uncomfortable, and I like when characters wear things that they shouldn't normally be wearing, because it's just a different look to them, even if it is not the right look. But then going back to Maze, I love her in this episode. Like, so she and Lucifer kind of done for now, and she makes not just one friend but two. So she makes a friend with Trixie, and then at the end she invites Linda out for a drink and makes a friend who is actually of legal age, and she just gets good relationship growth this episode. Go ahead, Maria, and then Renee.
Uh, yeah, the whole thing with Maze when she goes to see Linda, she just doesn't get the whole concept of friends, which reflects what we have commented on Chloe and Lucifer himself. And okay, so with Trixie, which I totally love this scene too, Maze respects Trixie, and she speaks to her like an adult. Well, what do you want to be? Who dressed you up as the old drag queen? This whole thing. And another thing that comes out in that interference, Chloe is really happy and thankful to Maze for taking care of Trixie. But Maze makes it very clear she's Trixie's friend at this point, not Chloe's, which I totally love. For her, my friends call me Maze. Oh, thank you, Maze. No, 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 not going there.
And I kind of sympathize with Maze. Kind of, I feel like being someplace she doesn't belong. It's kind of like the way you don't feel like you fit in this kind of world, and you try to find a way to fit in, and finding a friend like that actually makes you connect. Actually feels better. Like I sympathize with that. Also, for a side note, I find it quite surprising that Trixie knows what the Shirley Temple is. Like, I'm pretty sure around my when I'm around that age, I wouldn't know what that is. Like, I'm surprised that Trixie knows. Maybe she hang around with Lucifer too much. She picked up on that.
I just wanted to add then also with the earlier scene in the episode with Maze and Linda, where Maze just literally comes on to Linda and she's like, "What just happened?" Who can forget that scene? I love that scene. Go ahead, Maria.
Uh, in response to Renee, I don't think it's a that big of a deal. A Shirley Temple, it was quite common. I had my first one when I was like 8 or 9 or something like that. And no, I don't. I didn't go to bars. So that could be there. And what Kim was saying about Maze and Linda, this whole coming on, is this the way it works? Because Maze has absolutely no idea what's going on in this thing. She knows that she wants to fit in. She knows she has to be quote unquote normal. She's not working in a zoo anymore, according to what she told Trixie. Uh, so she's, exploring a bit. Let's call it that.
I really like that too. I like that Maze not only filters what she's saying around Trixie, like instead of telling her, where Lucifer's very open about it, and Maze normally is too, instead of just being like, I'm a demon and I'm from hell, she's like, oh, I worked in a zoo, and like she just kind of like softens everything she's saying for this child she hasn't met, and like, let alone a child of a person that she doesn't like. Like she hates Chloe, so she has no reason to be nice to Trixie, but she is. Um, Not to mention the fact that she's also on bad terms with Lucifer, and Trixie comes in and she says, well, I'm Lucifer's friend. So that immediately gives her two reasons to not necessarily be kind to Trixie, but she is anyways. And I think this is kind of the point where we start seeing a softer side to Maze. And then going with the um, Maze and Linda thing, I absolutely adore that scene. And I also can understand why Linda was like, well, what just happened? Because I imagine going from someone that you're meeting for like I don't think this is the first time they've met. No, they met at the bar. But like them going from Maze being like, well, do I have to sleep with you too? And like asking Linda to fix her to um like just storming out. That's got to be very like whiplash kind of feeling. And then she goes back later on. She's like, do you want to go out for a drink? That's gotta like that would really throw me off. Renee, go ahead.
I think that Maze doesn't know that Trixie is the daughter of Chloe. He just said the fact that Lucifer's friend are like okay, and when Trixie stayed around for a bit longer, Maze would be like maybe I should take the doctor's advice and try to make a friend with this little girl I just met. I'm like okay, I'll get to know you a bit more. And from what as the conversations go on, I'm like, this is actually a very decent person, like that I could talk to. Like, so cool.
Okay. I'm gonna change the topic completely and talk a little bit. I think we're ready to dive into like the Decker star of it all. Um, okay, I want to start with the ending scene, like after they've caught the bad guy and everything, and then there's the kitchen fire. And then oh, okay. I literally love so much the scene where he literally carries her out of the fire. It's like one of the several times where he saves her, and I was like crying, like he's literally carrying her away from the fire, and I love that scene so much. Go ahead, Renee.
And then, like when Lucifer got burned, and like what the devil gets burned by fire. Does that get any more ironic? That's natural. The fans laugh, but also Chloe laughs at it too. Like, like Chloe's like thinking what we're thinking with that response. It's like, does my pain amuse you, detective? And she goes, a little bit, and so does this. Oh, you little rascal. and also, how did Chloe get that heroin like this, and somehow dropped it on the way out or something? Like, how did she get it?
Maria and then Godo.
Uh, in that whole scene, which again, one of the many ones I love, Lucifer's relation or attitude towards women is always so respectful. Yes, he gets off on the sags and he loves playing with them, but he always sticks up for women. Very respectful. He carries her out. He doesn't diminish her like, oh, he doesn't see her like you little weakling who needs help, somebody to protect you, like Dan, which is one of his biggest mistakes. And from the very beginning, he's always said, you're an intelligent woman, you're this, that, and the other, go, good for you. And I think that that's one thing that enhances the whole Decker Star thing.
He respects her. I agree. Godo, did you have something to say?
Oh yeah, no, on the topic of Decker Star in this episode, I did want to add, I was gonna bring up the points that you guys have been bringing up, the scenes, the kitchen fire scene, and then obviously the end part. I just like the idea of that, Chloe was hurt by Dan, and the first person she confided with was Lucifer. Like she was drunk, but in her drunken state, she still in the back of her head like felt like safe to go to him. Like that's the first person that popped into her head, and I think that's wonderful, and that's kind of like it starts showing her that she actually has feelings for him, maybe beyond just partnership, and I think it's very interesting. I think that was like up the paved way, like of the Decker Star, the Decker Star journey.
Yeah, I love every single thing about that scene. I'll come back to it. Renee and then Maria.
Yeah, like at that scene, there's like one thing that Lucifer hasn't done before that really stumbled them both is that Lucifer didn't receive didn't receive that kiss from Chloe. Like she leans in to kiss him, but Lucifer is like, no. Like Rich baffles both of them, including Lucifer. Like, wait, did I just do this? Like, but I say that he's very respectful when he was drunk. Like he taking care of her. Like just to comfort her because she's like in very like Chloe's like in very vulnerable like states at that point. Like she's not thinking straight. She's very down. So kind of feel nice for Lucifer to be kind to her like in those moments.
As she says, she's acting like her mom, which goes on again to the whole thing. And that scene where Chloe's mom tells her to take a leap and she looks at the picture with Dan. And then she's sort of heartbroken, but then she says that she was beginning to care about Dan. She never said I loved him again. And as everybody's saying, a breakup text goes immediately to Lucifer. And I love that whole thing with because you're a kind person. It's a horrible irony that my father invented. I'm sorry. She says, "What? Because you're a kind person who puts the needs of others before your own." It's a horrible irony that my father invented. He's really opening up, and he gives her a real hug as a friend. It's emotional. It's not the I'm attracted to you. I want to go. I want to sleep with you hug. It's a real I respect you. I know you're a kind person, and that's why I'm here.
So someone posed this question earlier, and it wasn't something that I had thought about. But it is interesting to think about, and I want your opinion on it. So I never really thought about it, but why does Lucifer reject Chloe in this scene? Is it because she's drunk and she can't consent fully, or is it because it's Chloe, and if something were going to happen, it would want to be sober because it would mean more? What do you think, Renee?
I think I mentioned it a little bit before, but I think because Lucifer is just being respectful for Chloe, and also like when cause she's really drunk, like you don't feel like taking advantage of someone who is drunk. Like it kind of kind of feels wrong in my opinion. And I think in the past, Lucifer might have done it, like come across like a drunk lady, just want to party, and I'm like, all right, I'll do whatever you desire. But for Chloe, it's a lot different. Like she wants he. I think he wants it to be the more meaningful. Like he starts to care for her a lot more. So, but that's what my take on why Lucifer didn't take it. Didn't do it. That's my take.
Go ahead, Maria.
I think the whole respect thing. He has always been a gentleman. There was a scene, I forget. Yes, well, I forget which one. It's like, if you like this, just say the word, and it'll stop. And the woman says, "Oh, no, 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 no." This type of thing. He's always respectful. He's never going to take advantage of them. It has to be consensual in every single thing, even with Delilah. It's always been consensual. It always has to be respectful. And however, in this case with Chloe, it's not really fully consensual on her part. But at the same time, he realizes that this is not going to be a one night stand. He wants there's something much more than his party friends, his buddies, the best one night stand ever. So I think that he's expecting more. He wants this to be more meaningful.
I agree with everything you both said. Like it's about consent, but then it's also about respect, and it's about it being Chloe. So like both things can be true at the same time. I completely agree with that. Go ahead, Renee.
Like for the consent, I'm thinking because Lucifer is all about free will. Like it's all about freedom to choose to do something. So that kind of links to what he believes in, like free will, not just fate. You know.
I agree. I totally agree. And I want to talk about one other thing that we haven't really mentioned yet. So I never realized this until I watched it this time. But so there are several points throughout the episode where people are like, "Oh God!" And my favorite one is the very beginning, when he's flirting with this woman over the strawberry, and she like ruins the moment by like bringing his father's name to it. I love that scene. But the part that I never realized was at the end of this episode, um when Chloe like falls asleep on him, he says, "Oh God." um and I just like, so throughout the episode people were like saying it when they were elated and like in ecstasy, so for him to say it as she's like falling asleep on him, like I think although he's like freaking out and petrified at her like falling asleep on his chest, like I don't know, like some part of him is like having, I don't know, joy to like have her fall asleep in his arms on his chest. I might be wrong, but that's how I read it this time around. Go ahead, Renee.
That's actually a really good point. Like because from the what happened in the previous episode, like they did touch upon that. Like after what happened to Father Frank, like you're mad at God, and on this episode, like he Lucifer expresses how he his anger a bit more by like saying like oh God this, oh God that. Like he's popping up everywhere. Like oh like please don't say my dad's name out loud. Like come on. But at the end, like when he said it, he has like a confused expression on his face. Like if you guys notice, like oh God, and like wait, did I just said that? And also in the background, you hear the on the music, like the lyric goes, "Amen," like afterwards.
Go ahead, Godo.
I was just gonna say I like the point that you said, at the end he says, "Oh God," and you interpreted it differently this time. Because when I rewatched it, I still interpret it as like him saying, "Oh God," like he probably pinpointed that like this moment, like this is serious because he's having a very intimate moment with Chloe. I would argue that it's pretty intimate without like actual sex, because she's falling asleep on him, and it's the confidence and the trust. And so I don't know, I always take it as being like, wow, like this is something like more like there's something more going on here, and maybe he himself doesn't really understand it. And I just love the added touch that it came back full circle, and that he even looks up to the sky, like he's looking at his dad and saying like, oh God, like literally. So I think it was brilliant. I think it was a great way to round off the episode, because it started off as like a comedy bit, and then it ends like on a different note, like it's like shit got real.
I love that. It does. It goes from comedy to like having like a deeper meaning to it completely. And like, yeah, he is petrified and terrified. And he's like, what is happening? Like, real intimacy is happening here. Like, what is happening? But I do think that there's a part of him, like, deep, deep, deep down that's enjoying it. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, just that I brought up like the lyric for the amen bit. But also just before that, like before Chloe showed up, what it says in the music in the background is love will find a way. And after that lyric, Chloe appears. Like, do you see? Have you noticed the significance to that?
No, I didn't notice that, but I love that so much. Also, I just want to say that I love Chloe's scene or her outfit in this scene, the like plaid, like night dress thing. I love that. And then also just want to add that I love that he was going to go meet up with the Britneys, but he chose Chloe over some random one night stand. I love that so much. Go ahead, Maria.
I might be changing. Well, it's sort of similar. Changing the topic. A lot of the stuff. I don't know if anybody notices what's going on in the background. I after rewatching it so many times, if you pay attention not to the people in the foreground, but the people in the background. For example, Lucifer is in the kitchen opening up pots and pans, and sort of not paying attention, playing around. I find that really, really interesting. And also this oversharing, this childlike, yes, I tell the truth, but there's no filter. So at the whole going back to the dinner scene, and it's like, oh yeah, that's why, she's so upset at you, Mama Decker, but she didn't kill you. And oh, so you're back with Dan, so that's why she doesn't want to have sex with me. This whole oversharing, no filter. He honestly doesn't get why Dan was so disgusted, and even oversharing with suspects, because it happened with Father Frank. Yes, we think you're it. He shares too much information with Naomi, too much information with Mama Decker, too much information with Dan. And it's just like, oh, yes, of course. This is the truth. I'd never lie. But, sometimes you have to filter those things just a bit.
Yeah, I love that he literally, like Chloe mentions, you brought a man who's suspected of poisoning people to dinner with my family, to cook dinner for my family. Like he almost trusts people too much, maybe, with too much information or something. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about with this episode before we sign off for tonight?
Can I
Yes.
point out some Easter eggs? Like, Lucifer mentioned Voldemort on one of his lines.
Yes, I love that he mentions Voldemort, and then it literally made me think of Megan's tweet from this week where it was like, my husband might not understand Harry Potter. I found that very funny. Maria, go ahead.
Uh, Another thing that I noticed this time around is the way Chloe would touch his forearm constantly, to get him to hush, to get him to calm down, to get him to shut up, to not overshare. But it has become such a typical gesture of her when they're together. He'd be talking, oh, there's something I have to see. And she'll touch his forearm and get up and leave. While they're interviewing the suspects at the restaurant, and he says, yes, but, and he worked you to the boat. Come on, come on, come on. She'd place her arm on his or her hand on his forearm, which I thought was lovely.
She's getting more and more comfortable with him. I love that. I have to notice that. Go ahead, Renee.
And also, like, in a few instances, in this episode, when Chloe's tried to get Lucifer down a bit, Lucifer raised his hand and finger up, like hold on, I got there's something, mm, like there's some more info that we need to hear, like really, like it happened with Junior, like Chloe tried to stop him, but like no, and it happens to Naomi again, like he does the same gesture, like no wait no, gotta know more, so Chloe will let him as long as it really helps with trying to figure out what happened to the murder. But other than that, I think like Chloe really put a leash on Lucifer, try not to get him to say too much or do something that's not very normal for humans.
One more thing, Dan and Malcolm. Malcolm tries to blackmail Dan. Dan doesn't like the guy. He was looking for one reason to stick up for Lucifer. Lucifer, without knowing it, botches it up. But even then, Dan stands up for him. Maybe it's part of this whole um, journey to redemption, or I don't know what to call it. He hates the guy. He's jealous of him. He hates the fact that he's going out with his ex-wife. He hates the fact that he's rich and party all night and apparently has no problems. There's a lot of resentment, a lot of envy, and yet he's trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, I wasn't paying much attention to Dan in this episode as I should have been. But the part that really got my attention was the whole fight. I mean, Malcolm pretty much tried to choke Dan's life out of him, and then once he had him on the ground, he texted Chloe and was like, I didn't see what the text said exactly, but it was like, "Okay, we're done." Like, and then he broke up with her over text through Malcolm.
The text said something like, let's give it a real try. It was from Chloe to him. And that's why we don't know what Malcolm um, texted back exactly. But that was it. But I do think it was, I like the fact that Dan did what was right and didn't go with his gut, because at the end of the dinner, he was ready to really get back at Lucifer.
Yeah, he was ready to kill Lucifer right there and then. Like, you lost your chance, buddy. Go ahead, Renee.
Like at the start of the episode, Dan starts to question what Malcolm is doing, but I can kind of vibe that he Dan is starting to stand up against Malcolm, but when he heard that Malcolm's targeting Lucifer, it really got him thinking that. But I kind of glad that he kind of go against Malcolm like fully onto him in the end of the episode.
I just wanted to add really quickly, it has nothing to do with this conversation, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to add really quickly that this episode has like my most used Lucifer gif in it, and it's when they're questioning the suspects in the beginning and he like rolls his eyes and puts his fingers on his temple. I'm like, oh, that's the iconic scene.
I'm coming back just to scold you for using the word GIF incorrectly. Say it right. Also, I'm sorry, guys. I did not mean to dip on you. I have a very angry baby I'm taking care of, but I'm sure you guys are doing great on your own nonetheless.
Is there anything else that anybody else wants to add before we sign off for tonight? If not, I think we can talk next week because I've run out of notes for this episode.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
I'm just gonna see if anything on my notes that I'd like to share. Oh, and that an exchange between Anne Martin and Lucifer and Chloe just before the whole scene got on fire. Um, there's a bit of like Lucifer goes, because he is worthy of his father's love. He had a chance of redemption until you ruined it. Like, do you see any parallels between that little conversation?
And we're going back to the whole theme of redemption again. Oh, just one last thing. I love the way he says Chef Javier instead of Javier, which brings up, I know this is an accent thing because most of my non-American friends will say Los Angeles instead of Los Angeles. But just a little quirky thing there.
Yes, I love how he says the name differently than Chloe. It's very obvious. And then you're right, Renee, with the redemption thing and like looking for a chance at redemption, and like Lucifer thinks that he's just done, and like his relationship with his dad is done, and his dad and him are through, and his dad's not doing anything good for him anymore. And so yeah, him and Javier are definitely there. Like Lucifer in Javier's life, Lucifer's probably at that phase where, you know, he literally did. He ran away from the kitchen, from the home, and then tried to make it on his own, and he thinks that his relationship with his dad is done and dead. But little does he know that there are bigger plans in the works.
And actually got me thinking between Lucifer and Michael, like later on, people worship like Lucifer more than Michael. Well, not technically worship, but they prefer Lucifer over Michael. And probably Michael would feel like Michael would be in Anne Martin's position, like that ungrateful kid does not deserve this place. Like,
Absolutely, I completely agree. Anything else from anybody else?
some favorite lines from the episode.
Go ahead.
I would say when Trixie says he cheers me up, I would use that line. And like someone asked me like, why do you watch Lucifer so many times? And I would say, because he cheers me up.
Yes, I completely agree. Go ahead, Maria.
Oedipus, because it's patricide. Oedipus, Menendez brothers, Voldemort. You know, I just love that whole trilogy, and the fact that I think this is the first time he does it. But when they're flattering him, and he's like, oh stop," meaning going on. I just love that.
And Godo, do you have any favorite lines?
It was actually part of that scene when he meets Miss Decker. I just thought it was hilarious that he's like, "Oh my God, you're so." I can't remember exactly all the compliments. He says, "You're so lovely and you have such great taste. What happened to you?" And he like talking to Chloe. I think it was the funniest thing because he's like so serious about it. It's the line delivery. What happened to you?
Yes, and then he like comments on Chloe's age, and he's like, "How old are you? Like, you don't look old enough to be Chloe's mother. How old are you, Chloe?" I think that's so
Yeah.
funny.
Oh, and
Anybody else? Oh,
you must be a vampire. Yeah, are you a vampire because you can't be old enough to have a daughter this age? Mhm.
yes, I completely agree with that one. And then also, just like the whole, so when they find out that that Javier was poisoned with mercury, and he's like talking about like cracked a few thermometers open over breakfast, did you? And perhaps the killer ran out of thermometers. I just think that part's funny. But I have nothing more for this week. Anybody else before we sign off for tonight?
Did we talk about? I'm only here for a second, but I want to see if I can get the conversation going a little longer. Did you guys talk about Dan and Malcolm at all?
Yes, we did. Go ahead,
See, I
Maria.
missed everything. Okay, well that's it for me then.
Go ahead, Maria.
No, no, I think that's it. That's all. That's all I had. That's what they said.
All right, are we done then for the night, guys?
Go ahead, Renee. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry guys, but also one thing I gotta point out here is that when Chloe says like I need to go, like what about Lucifer, like but what about Javier, like he's still out there, and like we had to get him, and like Chloe goes, yeah we will, but this is an emergency, and like Lucifer I initially thought he rushed, but then he not technically rushed. He thinks he'll just go straight to the car and help Chloe out, but then Chloe rushes out like with Lucifer out on the street, and Lucifer goes like, "You gotta stop doing that! Like, come on."
Oh, yes. Yes, that scene. I love that scene. That was so funny. And then just while we're on favorite lines, I want to, because we never really dug into what they actually said at this conversation. The whole family dinner, like Dan is like talking about how he and Chloe had a kiss, and then Lucifer's like, "You're kissing now," and then like he's like, "So that's why you won't have sex with me," or something like that. I think that it's just that whole conversation is so funny to me. I love that whole dinner table scene. But I'm just looking back through my favorite lines. Does anybody else have anything else?
I think that's it for me.
Okay. If nobody else has anything else for tonight, I think we will sign off and see you guys next week. Actually, I think that we're skipping next week, but we'll let you know later.
Why are we skipping next week?
Because when it originally aired, there was a break between this one and the next one, and I'm trying to keep it as close as possible.
Oh, all right. Skipping next week, guys. We'll let you know. Bye.
Bye, you guys. We'll see you later.
Yeah,
Thanks
see
for
you guys
talking with
next
us.
time. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Take care.